What's going on, everybody? Dave back again with another video helping you get your streams off the ground. And today we're going to be talking about one of the most important parts of your stream that you need to get right to get people to stick around and watch your streams. And that is the audio. So let's get straight to it. So before we jump into OBS, let me just remind you that I do stream on Twitch most days of the week, and you can find out when I go live by following me on my social medias and joining the Discord. There you'll get an update the minute I hit the live button and as soon as I post a new YouTube video as well. So in my previous video, which I'll leave a link for above here, we spoke about one of the most important things that we need to get right when starting our streams, and that is the audio. Now, most people think that you need to have the best microphone available to be able to get a good sound with your audio. That simply is not true. In fact, I'll show you right now what my microphone looks like. That's right, the microphone I use is a completely unbranded, cheap microphone that I found online for about $30 US. Now, if you're like me and you haven't yet been able to invest into one of the more expensive microphones on the market, there are a few tricks that we can use to get the most out of what we have available to us. And all of those tricks can be found in the filters section of our streaming software that we use. So that's what we're going to go through today. What filters I use to get the most out of my microphone. And stick around until the end, where I'll go through one of the best free downloads that are available to us to maximize our audio quality. Let's jump into OBS. So here we are in OBS. We can see down here, we've got all of our sources ready to go for our stream. Over on this side, we have our audio mixer, and we can see the microphone there going up and down to the sound of my voice. And in the middle here, we can see all of the sources that we have available to us. And right there where it says microphone is where we're going to go into. So let's go. Okay, so the way we're going to do this is I'm going to first assume that you've already managed to put your microphone into your OBS sources menu here. So we want you to go to that setting that you have for your microphone and right click and enter filters. Here you can see all of the filters I have set up for my OBS. Now, to add a filter to your microphone, all you need to do is right click here, go to add and choose which filter it is that you want to add, or you can click on this plus icon at the bottom here. So the first one that I have is a noise suppressor. Now, what the noise suppressor does is removes any background noise and suppresses any sound that is below this minus 30 decibel level. Now, you can change that yourself. It goes all the way down to minus 60 and all the way up to 0. So as I say, I have it on minus 30, so I'll leave that there. Secondly, we have a noise gate. What the noise gate will do is turn the microphone off if no one's talking. So what the closed threshold means is when the microphone drops below this volume, the noise gate will turn the microphone off. An open threshold is when the noise goes above this volume, then the noise gate will turn the microphone on. We have a few other settings here that you can play around with to make sure that you get it right, but the attack time is how long it takes for the microphone to go from off to on as a sort of fade-in effect. We have a hold time as well, which is how long the microphone should stay on after the volume has dropped below the closed threshold to make sure it picks up any final sounds there. And a release time is how long it takes for the microphone to go from on to off as a fade out. So the attack time and the release time are essentially opposites of each other. Next up, we have our limiter. Now, I'll give you a little bit of a hint of what I do here to get the most out of my limiter. Is instead of going in and adding a limiter itself, which only gives us these options, I actually add in a compressor and just call it a limiter, as we get a lot more options here. Compressor and limiter are very, very similar things. The difference being is the ratio in which the compressor and the limiter operate at. Now a compressor, it has a low ratio that will turn down some of the volume when it goes above a certain sound threshold, whereas a limiter has a much wider and a much larger ratio that will turn down all of the volume that goes above any threshold. So as you can see with our limiter and our compressor here, the ratio for the limiter is much higher than the ratio for the compressor. Now our threshold is also at -4 decibels, which means if my sound goes above -4 decibels, the microphone will cut out all of the sound. So for whatever reason you start screaming on your stream or something in the background goes off that's really loud, the microphone will shut down all of the sound. Anybody who's listening will not have burst eardrums. We have an attack and a release, which is the same for our noise gate. And we also have an output gain, which we'll come back to in just a second when we look at our compressor. So moving on to the compressor, as we see, our ratio for our compressor is a lot lower than it was for our limiter, and so is the threshold. As we want the compressor just to not turn off the sound, but just lower it down so it keeps it at a nice level pitch, whether I'm speaking quite loudly like this, or whether I'm speaking quite quietly like this. You can hear both at reasonable sound levels. Okay, none of them are going to damage your eardrums and none of them are going to be hard to hear. That's what our compressor does. Again, we have our attack and our release time, but here we also have an output gain. Now an output gain is something that you can put on yourself as a completely separate filter. However, as the compressor does it for us, I tend to do it in the compressor. All the output gain does is increase the natural volume of the microphone. So if you set that to 0 decibels, that will be the level of your microphone in its natural state. If you move it up higher in decibels, the volume will increase. Simple as that. So if you want a louder microphone, increase your output gain. And those are the main filters that I use that you can find in your OBS. So you'll notice here that we have one more filter applied to our microphone, and we've called it EQ, which is short for equalizer. Now this is a completely digital downloadable equalizer that you can add as a filter in OBS to be able to sweeten your microphone to make it pitch perfect for your voice. What is an equalizer? Well, quite simply, you can change the frequencies in which the microphone picks up your voice. So if you feel your voice is lacking a little bit in bass, for example, then you can change the equalizer to add more bass to your voice. So I'll leave a link below where you can find this equalizer, download the link from the website, go back into your OBS, go into your filters, right click, add, and add in a VST2X plugin. This is your equalizer source. Okay, now I've added that in, download, call it whatever you like, click on this drop down here and go to Marvel GEQ. Open our plugin interface and you'll be met with something similar to this. However, all of yours will be flat across the middle. This end is your low frequencies, so your bass. This end is your high frequencies. So all I would suggest is to play around with these settings until you find what suits you the most. I like to have a lot of bass and I like to have nice high frequencies as well, so I sort of equal them out as much as I can, and it will give you this extra crispness to your voice. And that's it. That's all the settings that I use in OBS to get my microphone sounding as sweet as I possibly can without having to spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars on a top-end microphone. Just so you can see the difference, I'm going to turn off all of my filters one by one, so you'll be able to know how my microphone sounds naturally compared to how it sounds before. So this is the natural sound that's going into my microphone. With each of the settings, hopefully you'll be able to hear a clear difference between what was before coming into my microphone with no filters and no settings, and what is going into my microphone with all of the settings put in together. It is a massive, massive, notable difference between this with no settings and between this with all of our settings. So there we have it. Those are all the filters that I use in my OBS to get the most out of my unbranded, cheap microphone. Try them out for yourselves, and hopefully you can get some success with them as well. If you do, please come back to the video and leave a comment. Now, if you found any of this stuff useful today, or if you've enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe to the channel for more content coming in the future about how we can get your stream off the ground. For now though, I've been Dave, it's been an absolute pleasure, and I'll see you again next time.